You don't get to go to Best Buy and say, oh yeah, I'm going to take this TV and pay you in 90 days, right? It doesn't, no one's going to let you walk out of the store with it. But yet we treat creators like that, right? We're like, we're going to take your content and we'll maybe pay you in 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year.
Hey Tyler, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm so well. I'm so excited to be here. Like we've been trying to do this for a while, so I'm glad we finally got on the books.
Absolutely. And this is going to be, I know for sure, a very valuable and interesting episode. It's the first time that we go in the ins and outs of everything. There's like, all the legal, right, things around content creators. It is one of those things that many things, right, people don't think about. And so it's going to be interesting and very helpful for content creators, influencers, but I also would say for brand marketers, right, that many times might not see things about IP and other things, right, that creators can see on a daily basis. But before we get started, right, and we talk about all these interesting things, tell us a bit more about yourself with the map that we use here on the podcast. Basically, it's divided in the mission, what do you aim to achieve with your work, the achievements, anything that you're really proud of, right, notable milestone, career or life or both. And the last one is the purpose. So why do you do what you do?
Hi, I'm Tyler Chou, the creator's attorney. I'm so happy to be here with Alessandro today. I am the CEO and founder of Tyler Chou Law for Creators. I also have an agency and management company where I manage 30 of the biggest YouTubers in the world. So my mission is to protect creators. And a year ago, that was my mission. But now I've expanded it a bit. And it's basically, my mission is to protect creators and bring them to seven-figure businesses where they launch products and they're in a position to be acquired. I'm currently in the middle of brokering the sale of one of my clients' big YouTube channels for 8 figures. And that's something I want every creator and YouTuber to be thinking about. How do you position yourself with multiple revenue streams so that you can be attractive to a buyer? My accomplishments, I've been an attorney in Hollywood for over 16 years. I've worked at companies like Disney, Skydance, BuzzFeed, where I was head of the creators program there, as well as big law firms where I was, part of Tom Hanks's team and Marissa Tomei, as well as I've been the lead attorney on 22 feature films. So I've been, featured in a variety as a top Hollywood attorney. And a year ago, I left it all behind because I believe YouTube is the new Hollywood.
That's amazing. And then what about the purpose? Is there anything else on top of the, you shared about the mission. What about the purpose?
Sure. My purpose has always been to protect those who are vulnerable or voiceless. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 7. My parents actually still don't speak English. So I went to law school wanting to be a DA. I wanted to, work in the justice system to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. My first summer in law school was at the DA's office, but LA County wasn't hiring at the time. So I was not able to work there. Long story, but I got myself into entertainment by working for free. And my mission and my purpose are very tied together. It's always about protecting those Davids of the world who go against the Goliaths. So that's sort of my mission and purpose.
First of all, congrats of your journey so far. I'm pretty sure that you have stories, that is so in these years. And I'm also curious, before we get into, what you do now, what influenced you to also, getting a career into in law, and how was it? You said that you're an immigrant, you got here in the States when you were very young. Mm-hmm. How was that? I mean, it's never easy to do get into law, right? It's a lot of work, a lot of study. So tell me a bit more about, again, how did you stay motivated in something that difficult?
I think it goes to my childhood. I grew up as the only Asian in my school, and I was unfortunately bullied and made fun of because we were very poor and because we were Asian. And I think that just fired something inside of me that said, kind of subconsciously, I want to do really well so that I can prove these bullies wrong. And I've always just loved academics. I love books. So learning is very natural for me. It's like I'm a lifetime learner. I went to Berkeley as an English major. I actually wanted to be a novelist, but I went to law school to make a difference, to protect those who couldn't be protected. It was very hard. I went to Berkeley on a scholarship. I waitressed my way through law school. I mean, it was something that I had to keep pushing myself, but I always saw myself as an attorney, as somebody who could help those who couldn't help themselves. So I think that vision of what I was going to do in the future, who I was going to help really kind of propelled me. because that work hasn't stopped just because I didn't join the DA's office. I mean, for over 10 years, I have volunteered at a women's shelter, helping women of domestic violence leave their abusers, getting restraining orders and divorces. And so that has always been very central to who I am. So that motivation to just help those who can't help themselves, who can't speak up, that's, I think, what's always motivated me to keep going.
No, that's very admirable, right? Because you have every single day you wake up and be like, I actually can make a difference, right?
Yeah.
You got it like on your skin. You know what does it mean, right? Not to be treated like, fairly or poorly. And then, so I totally get that. It's kudos to you for doing something that is that important. And I'm curious then what happened, after, going from the Hollywood, world, right, to creators and YouTube. Was it something that you kind of strategize around that, or did it happen that one time you were, I don't know, like maybe a conference, could be a VidCon, with Summit, whatever, then you start talking with these creators and we're like, actually, this is interesting. Like, so I'm interested to see how much strategy was it, how much was like, this is interesting, money are getting there, they might need my help and support, and let me try.
Well, it's a great story. So I don't know if you know this, but I actually have my own YouTube channel. It's called, and so I started my YouTube channel 2 years ago because I had a midlife crisis. Basically, after about 2 years of helping creatives achieve their creative visions, I asked myself, well, what's my legacy, right? Of course, or my greatest legacy, but I wanted to leave something behind. So I thought, well, you know what? I was a fan of Ali Abdaal's, who has a course called the Part-Time YouTube Academy, and it's geared towards professionals who want to have a YouTube channel. So I, being kind of a type A perfectionist, I said, well, I'm going to take a course. I'm going to figure out how to do this. So I took his course, and, Ali's advice is you upload a video every week. 52 videos, you should get to about 1,000 subscribers. As we all know, it's very hard to grow on YouTube, right? Yes. And so I uploaded 2 videos and then got to about 200 subscribers, like 280. And then I went to Vid Summit 2 years ago. I met these 2 women, Emily and Sarah, the keto twins, and they asked me, hey, there's this drama with the Try Guys and Ned Falmer. And I don't know if you remember that, but basically Ned was like caught cheating on his wife with an employee, and he was like known as the wife guy. And Emily asked, hey, do you know what's going on here? And I said, sure. Like, they probably have an executive partnership agreement. There's probably a morals clause, and, cheating on your wife with an employee is a violation of that morals clause. And they're probably exiting him right now. They're probably buying his rights. We're giving him a rev share. Like, I kind of just broke it down. And she said, well, you should go make a video about that. So I went home. I made a 3-minute video after that weekend. 3 minutes. And that video hit 400,000 views.
Wow.
In the first few days. And that was from a tiny channel, right? Like 2 videos, 100 subs. And then I made 2 follow-ups. So those 3 Try Guys videos got me to 1 million views and 10,000 subs within that month. And then I was like, wow, there's like so much power here, because after being in Hollywood for 16 years, I have sat, Alessandro, on like hundreds of films in development that will never see the light of day. Not because they're not good scripts or they're not good stories, but it's because like, oh, the studio will say, well, that other studio just released a film that was similar to that 3 months ago, so we can't make this film. And then that film gets pushed down and down and down, and it just never gets made. But the power of YouTube is if you have a story and you're willing to go on camera and say it or make that movie, like millions of people can see it. Like, how amazing is that? So becoming a creator myself allowed me to understand the struggles that creators go through, the constant hamster wheel of putting out a video every day or every week. Then, seeing my fellow creators getting screwed by big companies or unfair contracts, it really kind of like stirred something inside of me that said, this is wrong. But, at the time, I was working on a private equity fund. I mean, I started my YouTube channel in secret. I didn't tell anybody in Hollywood about it. I didn't even use my full name. My channel was called The Hollywood Attorney when I started. And that was kind of what led me to understand, okay, there's a need here. There are very few traditional lawyers who are paying attention to this space, who are representing creators. So a year ago, I had the chance to leave my fund, and, I was laid off, actually. Like, I always try to spin it pretty, but I was laid off, right? And I should just say that a bunch of people were laid off. My fund was acquired by MetLife because of the $2 billion fund. And, my boss said no changes will happen. But of course, 3 months later, after MetLife went through all the numbers and realized, wow, films don't really make you much money. So they shuttered the studios division and I got a nice severance. But I said, what am I going to do now? But it was also during the strike, right? The WGA and the SAG strike. And I'm a very high level hire. Like no one was hiring anybody of my level. So I said, okay, I'm just going to start a law firm. Like I didn't think too much about it. I had a bunch of friends. I had a bunch of creators who had been asking me to represent them. And I finally said, well, I'm just going to try this out. While the strike, plays on, I'm going to see how it goes. And in the year that I've started my firm, Alessandro, it has exploded beyond my wildest dreams. Like I have so much inbound, so many new clients coming in that I actually yesterday I received an offer to buy my business. I mean, so wow. that's news. I'm still debating it. Like there's still so much that has to go into it. But like my YouTube business, right? Like so my fractional CEO and all of that. Not my law firm. My law firm will stay, nobody can buy a law firm. You have to be, a lawyer to be a partner in a law firm. So it's all very, very exciting. And it just shows the need for creators to have executives on their team who are their lawyers, their fractional CEOs, and people who are actually, some adults in the room, unfortunately. It's just not, like as we can see with Mr. Beast and Jimmy, like you need that. He has said himself, like young Beast didn't have the right lawyers. And I think that's why he's in a lot of the trouble that he's in now. He's got the lawyers now. I've read his complaints and I know that he's got big, big law firms, representing him now. But that's because he's in trouble now.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's better to, be on the preventive way, right? Like, side instead of just waiting for things to happen. And I also think that, the creators that work with you also really respect the fact that yourself yourself are creating like content every single day, or like you know how to be on camera, you understand about monetization, you understand about editing, you understand distribution and followers and everything, right? And that is like that's make a huge difference between that and just saying like, oh yeah, I heard about something, and now I'm gonna tell you what to do, right? But you're the first one doing that, so that is definitely coming handy. And so you said that many creators, right, they either sometimes they sign the wrong agreement, or maybe they don't even know about IP rights, or they don't even know, like, there is so much, right? Because they are great at creating content. It doesn't mean they know how to establish an LLC. They might not know anything about accounting, again, IP and so on. Have you identified what are the most common legal challenges for creators? Is there a pattern out there? Is there something that you identified as, coming over and over to you as either request by email or whenever you work on a case?
So I would say there's a handful, right? One of the things is signing bad agreements, right? Having really egregious termination like provisions where there's a fine, a charge, right? Like I had a client who was being told that in order to get out of this really awful agreement where it was like a loan and then he was trying to get out of it, but he had to like keep up his cadence of uploads and he was just dying. Like he was just like, he came to me crying, like broken. Like he's just like, I want out of this, but they want to charge me $50,000 to get out of this deal. So I stepped in, I reviewed the contract. I said, there are all these things that they've done that are just fraudulent. Like they took more money than they should have. And I said to him, and I stepped in and I went to their CEO and I said, let's go. Let's go to arbitration. Let's go to trial. I would love to get you in front of a judge or a jury because I can show them everything you've done really illegally here. And, I was able to get my client out without paying $1. And those are the types of deals that are really prevalent. There's, agreements where they're signing over, things in perpetuity or license deals that are just, they ask for so much, but a lot of creators don't think that there's an issue. Unfortunately, a lot of managers, there's a lot of great ones. I co-work with some great managers, but there are some managers who really, when they redline a contract, they redline, right? Like they care about the deliverables and like the fee. They're not really looking at kind of the back end, like indemnity and morals clauses and cap on liability or, weird, things like turning off your monetization on a video, right? They're not really focused on that. But I am, because I see all the issues that are coming in, right? I have a lot of IP being stolen right now, right? Like either videos being stolen, or I have a client who sells a course for $3,000 and there are like 10 10 websites out there selling it for $29. I send out a lot of cease and desist letters, a lot of takedown notices, basically going after these bad actors for stealing IP or brands not paying, right? Like this is also very common. A lot of creators come to me when, they're typically 6-figure deals, right? When it's kind of like it really hurts to like, how many creators have you heard of that just like, it's a couple thousand. So I just let it go because they just weren't paying. And so I just like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to hire an attorney because that's the cost, right? And honestly, I've done a lot of letters for free because I hate bad actors like that. I'm like, I will just go after them or tell me about it on LinkedIn and I will just call them out. I called out Captivate for not paying. And you know what? The CEO called me in 15 minutes because I was negotiating a current deal with a client, and I made him pay 50% up front, right? So like, tell me, like, I don't even have to represent you, right? I say this when I speak at VidCon and VidSummit, like, just tell me who they are, and I will call them out, because a lot of creators don't want to call them out, right? Because they don't want to be known as the creator that, makes a fuss and is difficult to work with. But at the end of the day, like, these agencies, like, these companies shouldn't get away with not paying. Like, you don't get to go to Best Buy and say, oh yeah, I'm going to take this TV and pay you in 90 days, right? It doesn't, no one's going to let you walk out of the store with it. But yet we treat creators like that, right? We're like, we're going to take your content and we'll maybe pay you in 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. That's not okay. So those are kind of like the more high level emergencies that creators come to me with. Also, another one is partnership disputes, right? A lot of friends start podcasts or channels together and they don't have an agreement in place. And a couple years later, they're like bigger. And then they're like, I have a client who this actually happened to. She was giving her best friend 50% of her AdSense. And a year ago, I said, this is not a good idea. Can we at least put this in a contract? And she's like, no, this is my best friend. I don't really want to. Sure enough, her AdSense hits 6 figures. And she's like, I don't know if I want to give 50% away anymore. And I said, yes. So we went to him 8 months ago. It's taken us 8 months to get through this contract. Because you know what he said, Alessandro? He's like, I own this channel. I own 50% of it. I made you. But if you have no partnership agreement in place, how do you just, how you like, it's a lot of unwinding. I wish creators could be more proactive and hire me to prevent the issues from happening. But they usually wait until it's like there's a huge emergency.
Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here for you. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth. From influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements, to managing shipping and logistics, we got you all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to direct-to-consumer brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into conversions. You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or just searching the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google. Yeah, and that's, something that I wanted to see with you, right? Instead of waiting for something to happen, how content creators, right? What are the things that they should think about on day one? This is a great example when it's about partnership. How many times you start something with your best friend, with your roommate, with you, whatever, right? And you, of course, when your friend all the time is like, this will never happen to me. We're best friends. Well, of course, we're gonna be friends forever, right? Sure. And then similar to like, a rock band at a certain point, right? They start with the best intentions, and then when you start seeing money, people get greedy. And unfortunately, business is business, right? And many times some people take their feelings, away for a second, and they be like, you know what? I just care about this money, and I don't care if you're my best friends, if you're my mother or whatever, right? I just want to get this. And so, what are some of the pieces of advice that you would say to someone that either want to start a partnership? So in this case, like, would be interesting to see how to be sure that if things go well, financially speaking, everyone knows, right, what to expect. And also the second is like, in addition to that, is there anything else that many creators that you talk to, have you identified anything that after a certain point always come up as a problem that they didn't do on day one and they just procrastinate for some reason? And then when hit the moment, they're like, if only, right? Yeah. So I'm curious about that.
So yes, there's a handful. The top two are probably setting up an LLC paying your taxes, right? Like I know so many creators who are not paying their taxes, and that's going to come back and really hurt them in the future, right? I ask clients, have you trademarked your name and profile photo? Takedowns are a lot easier. We have to realize, right, Alessandro, that the flood of creators is coming. Every child in the world wants to be a YouTuber, right? Like that's their dream job now. It's not a doctor or an astronaut, it's to be a YouTuber. So if your name is a little more common, like someone else is going to grab your name. I know of an agency that has a name and now they have to rebrand themselves because when they went to go trademark, they're like, oh, there's this other agency out there who's been using the name for 10 years, but they didn't think about it when they were naming themselves. So I'm like, we could even go even earlier, right? Which is like naming yourself. Like if you're going to name a company or a podcast or anything, please do a trademark search and see if there's someone else out there in the same category or class as you. This is something that's like really huge. General liability insurance, media insurance. If you're doing anything that's like, CoffeeZella is a great example. Like he is getting sued by Logan Paul. So he tenders his lawsuit to his insurance and they're like, oh, defamation is excluded, which is criminal, by the way, because his broker should have understood that the reason why he bought E&O insurance was because he needed defamation coverage. And I think he's suing him right now, which he should, right? Like he should be suing the broker for malpractice. But if you're doing any type of content that's like reactionary or like doing reviews of people, even products, right? If you're doing reviews of products, like that can kind of be on the edge of like, if you hurt someone's business, could a company come after you for doing those types of reviews? Like you need to protect yourself. And then, those are kind of what I think of rises to like, you should do this immediately. If you're like making a couple $1,000s, right, making content. And then, the further on is if you start getting employees, right, they should be under an employment contract or independent contractors as editors. You have to have language that states that you own their results and proceeds, right? Like anything they make for you is yours. If you don't have a piece of paper that says that, you could have an editor that leaves with the video and says, oh no, this is my work. Like I came up with this concept or this tool or this element of your video. So I'm going to take that with me. They could, because you don't have a piece of paper that says you own that result and proceeds, right? So those are kind of like the ones I see for all creators. Now, when you get to more kind of higher level creators, right? A lot of my clients are in the $1 million plus. Then we start, looking at revenue streams and different things like that. So there's different protections that go into launching a product or we're working with private equity funds and getting equity. So it's like those get a little more complicated and might not apply to so many creators.
2 points, very important. The first, like the last one that you said about, be sure that if you hire someone, there is all the agreements in place, all the contracts, there is, very clear about what our position and everything. And also that if they're doing something for you, right, it's your IP. That reminds me of, one of the episodes of Silicon Valley, this TV show that was on HBO.
Oh, I love it. You don't have to describe it. I know it. Yeah.
Okay. No. Like I knew for sure that you know it. It was mostly for people that are listening in that I realized that many people don't actually know about the show.
Oh, I'm a total nerd. nerd.
Okay, love it. So, and it reminds me, right, when there is the case about that they use the computer given by the company, where at the same time there was like no agreement for that, so it was like a bit complicated. And at the end of the day, I think that episode was a great example of like being sure, right, that no matter if you are into the big Silicon Valley or if you just started your new LLC, you should think about that. And the other one is about the insurance. I think that you're totally right. Especially when you start, it's one of those things that you're like, oh, I'm an artist, I'm a creator, I should not even look into this. This boring, it's bureaucracy. Or you think like, oh, this will never happen to me, right? All the time, it's someone else is gonna get sued. It's someone else is gonna get into legal issues, right? And yes, it's a little. I mean, not necessarily little. It depends by the things, but it's an investment that you do. It's better to, right, put a bit in that moment, and then if anything happens, right, knocking on woods, but at least you're protected, right?
Yeah, let me flesh that out a little bit, right? Because creators are like, why do I need general liability insurance? I mean, look at the creators who endorse FTX, right? When FTX went under, they all got sued. And just because we don't hear about it right now, it doesn't mean it's still not going on. I mean, they're probably in settlement or mediation, but these creators are probably on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, because they told the audience, the world, this is a safe product. I'm giving it the endorsement. You should go invest and buy in FTX. And so if you have general liability insurance, they'll cover your legal fees, right? Depending on like how, if you were like negligent or depending on your actions. But if you weren't, and this was simply like a sponsorship that you did, but you didn't know, you did your due diligence, like you didn't know, they were going to defraud millions of people, then the insurance company will cover your legal fees. But if you don't, then you're on the hook for all those legal fees. Like you have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees because litigation's very expensive, right? It's the beauty and nightmare of living in the U.S. You can sue and be sued by anybody. But and then in addition, the settlement, like whatever you have to pay to the victims, those could be millions of dollars that if you just paid for the general liability insurance, which could be just $1,000 or $2,000 a year. I mean, I know it's like creators are very cost sensitive. They don't want to pay for anything, right? But at some point, we're seeing a mature of the industry, right?
Exactly.
COVID's almost about 5 years. There are creators who've been making stuff about 5 years. A lot of them have gotten really big. A lot of them are starting to realize, oh, what's my business? Because, creators think of their YouTube channel as their business. So they'll say to me, well, my YouTube channel is my business. I'm like, no, your YouTube channel is the marketing arm of your business. You're the business. You're the media company. They don't realize that because they usually don't have anything that they're selling, right? They're usually selling other people's product. I truly believe that a reliance on AdSense and brand deals is a recipe for burnout, right? If you're not selling something of your own, if you're not building off platform, you don't have your own community or capturing your data with your email list, and that's the goal, right? Like if you have an email list, that's who you're selling to. If anybody takes anything from this talk, it's like, well, let's get general liability insurance, LLC, and maybe, capture your email list soon, right? But yeah, it's just like, I just see this happening all the time where creators don't realize that they're a business. They're just like, oh, like you said, right? I'm just a creative. I don't need all this stuff, right? I think you do.
No, totally. I mean, in other episodes, we talked about this. In one episode, I remember that with Miss Excel, she has a team of almost 20 people now, right? And if you see from the outside, it's just, a video about Excel and formulas. And it's a funny, entertaining video. And then you realize that there is a team of 20 people behind that, right? It's a serious business. Like, when you start doing 7 digits, 8 digits, you know better than me managing like a lot of people, right? That do those numbers. It's not a game anymore. It's a business with families and people depending on that.
Oh, yeah. And it just takes one disgruntled employee to leave or like to be wrongfully terminated to sue the company. I mean, I think one of the challenges is a lot of creators are young, right? A lot of them haven't had corporate jobs. They haven't had things go wrong. They haven't been sued, right? Like, the second you get sued, it really changes your perspective on the world. Like you start thinking about, you think about managing risk and just interactions and relationships differently, right? Now, I will say this, like at my last job at my private equity fund, we got sued a lot. And I was like the lead attorney. And I remember saying to my boss, who's one of the principals of the fund, I was like, I'm really stressed. And he's like, why are you stressed? I said, because we're getting sued all the time. And he said, if you're not doing big business, you're not going to get sued, right? And like, look at Uber and Airbnb, like when they were going full out, like they took so many risks and they like went full out and their lawyers would be like, slow down. And they're like, no, because the cost of litigation will be less than the profit we're going to make by going really fast. And so that's always the calculation that businesses have to make, right? Like, do you want to go fast and you're sure you're going to make enough money to cover all the legal fees? But that's not most creators, right? Creators are small businesses. Like they don't have millions and millions of dollars to be spending on legal fees. So I think it's very important to be proactive and kind of put these things in place so that when they get sued, not if, like when. You look at Jimmy, you get big enough, you're gonna get sued.
Yes.
You deal with enough people, you're going to get sued, right? And so that's just business.
And so because of this, right, and you said that now finally the creator economy is a bit, more mature compared to 5 years ago, much more than 10 years ago, right, when it was still this thing, some there in the cloud, right, there was not even called the creator economy. My last question for you today is, then how do you envision the future of everything that is like, all these legal aspects and legal protections for creators in the next future? Are you seeing like a bit of like sort of light on the end of the tunnel here? Are you start seeing a more maturity also in people? Or do you still think that we still have to work much more on the educational side for everyone involved to be either protected or to understand their rights. And I would like to understand, what do you think there is a current status, and what else can we do in the next future to make this situation better for everyone involved?
Well, so what we're going to see is we're going to see more creators get bigger, right? So that like 1%, I think will get bigger. It'll be like 5 or 10%. But what we will also see, or maybe it will stay at 1% because the new people coming in is going to be huge. Like we need to brace ourselves for a tidal wave of creators who are going to come. Look at the millions of tech people who've been laid off, right? Who cannot get a job. A lot of them are going to start YouTube channels, right? They're going to, and a lot of them have, right? Talking about some have like recorded their layoffs, right? It's brilliant. And it's so like engaging, right? You're like, oh my gosh, you recorded getting laid off, right? And like people tune in for those. I mean, my chief of staff is an engineer who got laid off. She's a friend of mine who like is so smart, but she just couldn't find a job. And literally 4 months ago, she said, I'm just going to go apply at Starbucks. Like, I just need a job. I need to stop sitting at home all day, like looking at LinkedIn for a job. So I know how like smart and methodical she is. She's like, I said, just come help me run my business, be my operations. Like she's writing code and building systems for me. I mean, she's so invaluable to me. But you're going to see all these people, and the Gen Zs and even the Gen Alpha coming up, they're so in touch with what they want and what like makes them happy. Like that's why so many kids these days take a job and then like in 3 months they're like, I'm done. This is not for me. Like corporate or the corporate world or this company is not for me. And they're so comfortable leaving those jobs. So we're going to see like a real shift in the workplace, and especially with AI, right? AI is going to replace a lot of these tech jobs. And so like I think the number of content creators is going to multiply 10x. And so we are going to need more and more education, right? I'm being asked every other day to like go speak or teach courses, like to educate creators, right? There are big companies who want to spend in this space. Like traditional media and the studios are trying to figure out, like, how do we get into this space? The number of Gen Zs, like I just saw the statistics, like who watch YouTube over traditional media, and Netflix is now considered traditional media, right? In comparison, like it's like 40% of Gen Zs watch YouTube every day, versus everything else, right? Like you can't even get a kid to go to a movie theater most of the time because they need to have both screens in their hands, and it's just like my daughter's 13 and she's like that. Like she might watch a movie once a year, like if there's a real movie she wants to watch, but most of the time she'd rather stream it at home and like be on her phone at the same time. You just have to understand, what is the market now? Like what does the market want? And the market wants YouTube. I believe YouTube is the new Hollywood. I believe this is where content is going to be made. And traditional media is not going to go away, right? Like, movies are still going to be there. But I think,
of course,
in YouTube, we're going to see, like in the next 10 years, we'll see Academy Award winning directors who are getting their start on YouTube right now, and I think that's a very easy statement to make.
Totally. It's very funny when you say about the different screens. I saw this picture of definitely someone Gen Alpha with like a YouTube video going on a tablet while there is a Twitch streaming in the back with a connected TV on maybe like, again, another YouTube, and then on the phone play a game. And it was like multitasking at the, a crazy level. And sometimes I cannot do two things at the same time. So like I can definitely see a new generation.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, by the way. I mean, I love the kind of like how it equals the playing field and how everyone can be a creator, right? But I think there's going to be heavy taxes on our mental, health and well-being by just like being so overstimulated, right? Like as a parent, it's something that I struggle with. I have to do it myself. Like I have to meditate. I have to really ground myself because I'm pulled 17 different ways. I mean, I have so many verticals in my business. Like I have my law firm, I have my agency, I have my YouTube channel. I'm about to launch a community with, Mighty Networks. I have an advisory, like a lot of private equity funds ask me to advise. I'm asking to like do a lot of speaking engagements. I have events. I mean, there's just like, and then my law firm should be a full-time job, and it is a full-time job. So I sleep like 4 hours a night. Like sleep is a little, like as a founder in my first year, it's like sleep is overrated, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I can only kind of keep at this pace for so long. But it's
Yeah.
like I think my success, or like people say my success, is because of it. It's really, there's a pain point here, right? Like I say to a lot of my creators who want to create like products, like figure out what's a pain point that your audience has, and then create a product for that. And I just sort of organically did that, right? Like I saw a pain point, I went to solve for it, and now I realize that the pain point is so big that I can't even service this on my own. I mean, in 5 years, I see myself having probably a huge company, right? Like where it's like all these people will be helping creators grow out their businesses. Because I think that's, for this to finish out what we were saying about kind of like, where do I see the future? Like more and more these top creators will become medium-sized businesses or even large businesses, right? You look at Jimmy, like he has a $700 million corporation right now.
Yeah.
It's going to easily be at $1 billion soon. Like there will be more and more as we go in 5 or 10 years. There's going to be more Mr. Beasts out there, I believe. Maybe not. I mean, maybe not like completely, because we are seeing a shift away from like the big views, and there are people who like the slower content, and I have clients who have 100,000 subscribers who make $1 million a year. Like you don't have to be a huge creator to have a huge impact or a huge business. So I do think as we see more maturing of the space, there will be more businesses that become very attractive to bigger companies, to traditional companies. Remember, when that wave when Disney bought Maker, and it's just like they were all buying up these different companies. And so I believe we'll see that a little more happening again, probably.
Absolutely, especially as you said at the beginning, that you're not your YouTube channel. It's you as a media company, and the more you can diversify your revenue streams, the more you can maximize your revenue, minimize the problem, right, of potentially being like, okay, what if my videos get shadow banned, right? And you put all your eggs in one basket. That is a problem that many people saw, right? When there was Vine before, right? And then discontinuing that to move somewhere else. I think that in the years, creators learn that you need to own your audience, you need to create your own community, and you need to diversify the most possible, right? Because again, if one of your revenue stream 1 month is down, it's so unpredictable many times, right? That and also brings you to burnout, right? We discussed about this in the past, how easy that is. But this was very interesting. I know that we could definitely do 3 more hours to go over all the different things, and wanted to thank you. First of all, congrats on everything that you built. I want to send you, very good vibes for, the different verticals and different things that you're doing as of now. I can see there is a big need for that, and I think that you bet on the right things. So that's something to see.
Thank you so much, Alessandro.
Tyler, is there anything else also that you would like to add on top of the question that we went through today?
I think there's something I want to highlight for creators. Well, 2 things, right? The last thing you said about diversifying. I think that creators should actually diversify the platforms they're on too, right? Like don't just be on YouTube. I mean, I have been growing on LinkedIn, which I think right? Like I did a 90-day challenge, and that actually was the biggest ROI for me. I have so many CEOs and founders. Like some of my biggest clients have actually come from LinkedIn. Like building your personal brand makes you basically, bulletproof, job proof, future proof. So diversifying your platform, I think, is very important. And the other thing I really wanted to highlight for creators to start thinking about, and I think this is for mid-sized to big creators, like when you're doing brand deals these days, you should think about asking for equity. Alex Earl with Poppy and Joe Rogan with Carnivore Snacks. And of course, everybody wants to have a, 50-cent vitamin water day with $100 million exit, right? But it's possible. Like if you find a startup, or a brand that you really are interested in and love, and you can be a brand ambassador for them and actually help them improve their product, you should ask for equity, 2%, 5%, 0.5% even, like with a very big exit, could be very meaningful. So I really want creators to start thinking about that. It's something that I do a lot right now for both sides. I actually represent startups giving equity, and I represent creators, getting equity. So I spoke to a huge creator at VidCon, like one of the biggest on TikTok, and she was like, I have no idea what this is. Like my managers are not telling me about it. Like I love this, right? And then she went and told her YouTube like manager about it. And then he came and told me how cool it was because he didn't really know about it. So I think it's just something that a lot of people aren't realizing is in the background that brands will offer if you ask for it, right? That's the thing. Like if you have a lawyer who asks for something, you might get it. But if you don't, right? And this is the same with redlining any contract, right? Like the company's going to give you the most pared down contract that's very favorable to them. But if you get an attorney involved and they know what to ask for, then you get a much more negotiated contract that is favorable to you, right?
Many times you didn't even know, right, that things exist or they should be, because you're not supposed to, right? Like it's not your job, right? That's why you need an expert.
Well, I think creators should realize that, when you hire an attorney, it gives you more time to create, to actually make more money. Like I spoke at Sony Kando a couple weeks ago, and there was like a world famous photographer, Paul Nicolin, who's like National Geographic, right? Like the top of photographer there. He came to my talk, and afterwards, like he did a podcast with JVN, and he actually called me out because there were a lot of creators in the audience who were like trying to like get my advice so that they could just go do the brand deal themselves, but not hire me. It was very clear. And I'm always like, I'm just going to give you the information. I'm not going to like tell you to hire me. And Paul in the podcast said, just hire an attorney, like hire Tyler, right? Like let her do that work so that you can keep creating, because there's stuff that you can do that your attorney can't do, but there's things that your attorney can do that you can't do. And a lot of creators think, well, I ran this through ChatGPT, so I understand how to negotiate this. And it's like, maybe if he's, if it's not hallucinating, but you also don't have the 10 or 20 years of experience that the attorney has that knows like what could go wrong in a contract or in a deal, right? So look, I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you so much. Just like I could talk about this for hours. As you can see, like I'm so passionate about educating and protecting creators. And I might be starting my own podcast soon called The 7-Figure Creator. So maybe I'll have you on and come, and talk about your business, because I would love to hear about your business.
Absolutely. I would love to. And, also the podcasting, it's definitely an interesting one. It's you can meet a lot of people, you can tell stories, and you just have to, again, put all the pieces of the puzzle like together, because again, as for everything, you already do YouTube, so you know how, difficult sometimes and time consuming it is, right? To do. But at the same time, I think it's the barrier are so like, low these days that literally with just a microphone and everything, you can create that. And as you said, like, who knows, maybe it explodes, right? And just because of that, with a very low budget, you can get in front of people that actually will find that episode valuable. They will learn something. That's what we try to do on this podcast. Is like, okay, after half an hour, I actually learn things, and I'm gonna go and Google, right? And I'm gonna contact Tyler for this, right? I'm gonna say, can you help me with that, right? That's what we try to do here. So again, as I said, earlier, wishing you the best of luck with all the adventures, right, that you're getting on, and for sharing your knowledge with us and the valuable tips, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people listening today, right, on the episode, found them very useful. So again, thank you, Tyler, so much for joining me today on this podcast.
Thank you so much. And if I could just ask one favor, if people could follow me on LinkedIn, I'm trying to hit 10,000 followers by the end of the year. That's my goal. And so I really appreciate you, Alessandro. Thank you.
Of course. And we're also going to put the link in the description of the episode, so people can just easily click there and follow you there.
Thank you.
This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.